Welcome, everyone, to This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing, where we discuss topics, tools, techniques, and other super cool stuff with the smartest minds in the universe when it comes to hospitality. And
someone else is joining? Who's joining?
Guests that are arriving. Mr. Tim Peters with Tim Peter and Associates. Mr. Edward St. Ange. Do I still say that wrong?
No, you say it right, St. Ange.
Okay, yeah, good.
You say it's very French.
About that with Flip too, and I was just telling Mr. Ed St. Ange that he is a lauded person with people that I work with client-wise. That there are people giving him accolades, and he doesn't even know it. They think of him as one of the greatest salespeople they've ever met. And I just and
they didn't say it through their teeth. Like, oh, he's a great salesperson.
No. They were very sincere about it. As a matter of fact, if they had even had a hint, a whisper that you were in any way interested in working with them, they would throw me out to the curb faster than possible.
See, the thing that they've always been shielded from is I look really good because I'm surrounded by really good people who actually do the work, and I make it sound really good. If you ever had me one-on-one, you'd be sorely disappointed.
There are so many things if we weren't recording, that would be fun. No, we're not going to. This is not that kind of show.
Right.
Well, so we did hash some stuff last week that were really great topics. I'd love to bring at least one of them back this week. And of course, Tim, I was just dying to get your thoughts on what you had suggested with the Expedia and their comments and their recent comments even this week. It isn't like we stopped the week before. They kept on going with this thing. It's like it's like when you have a lie, you run with it. If you're going to lie, you keep with the story.
Well, I don't want to say they're lying. I really don't want to say they're lying. I think they are saying what is in their best interest to say. I think what is in their best interest to say is not necessarily in the best interest of everybody else in the space by any stretch. I actually wrote a fairly lengthy post about this past week, and I'm going to, of course, put the link.
Of course, you're going to share the link. Come on.
In just a moment.
Open it up in the other little empty box. A tribute to Robert. Hey, Robert, we took you out. We put a screen capture in your place. Right.
Give me one second.
Look, guys, one of the other companies I'm involved with joined us today. Social Tables is here. Let's see who it is.
And we had talk a little bit more about high tech and.
I'm excited about high tech. By the way, Social Tables, Flip2, Lanyon, and Navis are throwing a party Tuesday night. One party, all of us.
Very cool.
Yep. So your invites will be out there.
Very cool.
Thank you. Yeah. Tim is not opening up as a link. Sorry about that. We've had that before where sometimes the length of the link or the type of the link doesn't work it. Let me see if I can get it another way.
I accidentally stuck a hashtag on there when I copied and pasted. Hold on one second. That's probably causing your issue.
Anyway,
there's another try at it.
Everyone. One of which was I wanted to talk a little bit because we talked about a little bit of last week. There was some really cool stuff that got launched out. Google with their I/O for 2016. Mm-hmm. They threw out the yet to be named but monikered Google Assistant.
Yes.
Which is scary. I think I mentioned it to either of you individually as I'm working more with places like DerbySoft and so forth, and I feel like I'm building Skynet.
And you are.
Listen, I mean, it's funny. It's funny to talk about. We talk about it here a lot internally because we're launching Microsoft's AI over our platform.
Mm-hmm.
And, AI done well can really simplify life. And like Google's Assistant in the link that you provided, complex search is really the opportunity right now in AI. Whole idea of something that manually you'd have to do 3 or 4 separate searches once you've learned like what you learned from your couple searches. So like when it's a complex set of tasks, like I want to know about this, and then based on what I learn about that, I want to know about this and this. That's a huge opportunity. That's going to change the way we gather knowledge. And that's what I'm really excited about. On our side, what we're doing is we're tapping machine vision from Microsoft. So as you guys know from studying our website. A big part of what we do is having guests share their stories, and a story is a photo and a quote about the best part of their trip, not necessarily just the hotel, but just their best experience. And so we're running those through machine vision and tagging them so hotels can easily pull them up by sentiment, by what's in the picture, by segment and things like that, to better understand, because I mean the volume we end up collecting is substantial and they're all really good. So we want them to be able to easily use it in the rest of their marketing. But it's also laying the groundwork where we'll be providing hotels and marketing agencies and companies like that the ability to put dynamic images in their marketing, and based on the data they feed us, we'll match it up to the most appropriate tagged guest story, so that, you know, if you feed us through search terms, because this person came through on dog friendly hotel, we'll search real time, find appropriate photos that are ranked and, you know, all of this stuff, and put the best photos forward that would make sense. And what's amazing about it is the sentiment, the fact of, like, it doesn't just tell you like these people seem happy or they seem sad. It's literally like they are 39% happy, 10% surprised, 4% contempt. And like, I mean, it's amazing what you can do with it and what that unlocks from, you know, content personalization. You know, and that's really what people want. And it's kind of where, you know, we kind of went this route with digital where it pulled us away from personality. And, you know, personality was hard because you had to build everything to be very basic so all audiences would speak to it. But now we're coming back because of AI with the ability of serving up experiences that the person will actually care about. Yeah. And then, you know, with complex search, this is going to be huge for travel, you know, because I think about it like around August, all I want to figure out is where can I go this weekend that it's 75 degrees with my kids? Because in Orlando in August, towards the end of August, you're done. You're just so tired of the heat. You just want to escape.
Well, and Ed, you know, just the conversation we were having before we started recording, and I won't go into the specific details, but you have a very specific travel need coming up that's related to family and things along those lines. And that's exactly right. That's the kind of search that today is very hard to do, where you say, here's a whole set of requirements that I have for this specific trip. Now show me the right hotel for that. And that just doesn't really exist quite.
Well, you can't. I mean, and that's where voice AI and you know, these assistants that are coming out are going to change what you look for. And this is also going to require the entire industry to step up in its content, because what's going to happen is the hotels that realize that having their content correctly tagged with the correct you know, messaging and everything like that, to be able to take advantage of people who can now do with one sentence, can tell you what otherwise manually would be a 30 option, very advanced search. You know, it's gonna be a big deal.
Yeah, it's funny. I know sometimes we like it if we can disagree because it helps, you know, bring the drama, right? And in this one, there's no way to disagree. I mean, it's really about focusing on customer experience. It's really about building out content that solve your customers' problems, because ultimately those AIs need the content to consume to say, this is the right answer to this. I do think that there's going to need to be still a lot of emphasis on data and using data to help. I think there's going to need to be a lot of testing to see what actually works for your customers and what are the questions that they have that you need to be solving for. And I think the biggest challenge is to say who are going to be the players who, you know, who's the next, I hate to say OTA, but the next, you know, channel that will support that. Because for specific hotels, for independent hotels where I do a lot of work at, I know you do a lot of work, some of the capabilities are going to be outside their control. They're not going to have the talent. They're not going to have the resources. They're not going to have the IT investment, et cetera, nor should they,
Right.
to solve for those problems.
Although I will say, if you read a lot of articles about personalization, for the first time in a major shift in how the internet's working, I actually think Hilton and Marriott are at the forefront of it.
I do too.
Both have ramped up such a substantial project to make personalization possible. Notice that neither of them talk about what they're going to do with it. And I think part of that is they don't yet know, but they were at least had enough foresight to realize they needed to have their infrastructure right to be able to do something truly personal.
Right.
And so I think you're going to see Hilton and Marriott coming out with ability to do these things either at the same time as the big OTAs or even possibly before it. And that's, I've never seen that before.
That's right. That's right. Well, to kind of bring this not full circle, but back to the discussion that we had, that you had last week about Expedia and the things they were talking about. You know, I think what a brand offers is shifting a lot, right? It's, you know, it's always been a booking and marketing channel for sure, but increasingly the technology stack is becoming a really critical component. So not just the PM and the RMS and things along those lines and connectivity to third parties, but the loyalty program, the database, the personalization capabilities, the content creation capabilities to actually, you know, put the right content in front of this person. And it becomes less of a loyalty program in the sense that we've always known it, and much more a recognition focused program, much more a sense of you're a Marriott Rewards member and we know you like X and Y and Z. And so we're going to provide you content and offers that are specific to you.
Yep.
Whereas if you're a loyalty member who is, you know, who prefers, you know, another set of amenities, we're going to personalize there in a different way. And I think that's really the big shift. And that's where
what's going to be interesting is to see, you know, as that shift happens, you know, because I go back to my revenue roots. I think there's a huge opportunity in revenue management in these brands to really think about that. So when you look at a new dimension of decision is if all of a sudden you have the ability to speak to a specific person about something you know they're specifically interested in, then does it ever make sense to expose promotions again? Or do you target with, hey, you know what? Ed, we know from his last day, he's got kids. We know he's in the right distance and we know he will travel last minute. We have a really strong need right now. And we also know that Ed spends a lot on property. Let's send him an offer. Like let's Ed a message that is only good for Ed. It's not good for any of his friends, any of that stuff. That is possible if you have all of the content, all the messaging, and the entire experience figured out. That becomes possible.
Well, and so sorry, just one thing. One thing where I think a Marriott is in a great position, where I think a Hilton is potentially in a very good position, is when you look at the portfolio overall. Because what they have an ability to do today that they haven't had an ability to do before is potentially get 100% share of wallet. And it's not just the, you know, the Marriott brand, the luxury brands, et cetera. It's also the fact that they have soft brands so that there are independents. It's all the different pieces to say, here's the right property for your specific stay. So they're personalizing the offer in that regard, and also getting the data from each of those different stays that then just feeds a more robust profile and say, here's the right answer to the question for a specific visitor for a specific trip. It then just becomes sort of this, the you know, self
fulfilling.
Yeah, like a positive cycle. My brain stopped working suddenly.
Well, it is strange to be talking about this industry and talking about a positive Fed cycle.
Really. But here's my Skynet worry. We may realize too late all of this opportunity because we're feeding Google, we're feeding Facebook, we're surrendering all of our data. We're surrendering everything that we can possibly say about ourselves to these entities in the hopes that we have favorite positionings and opportunities for placement and so forth. So,
are we though?
Yeah, I don't think we are.
What parts do you think we're missing? Because
So
right now,
the only data you're sharing is basic web behavior. Hotels have so much more depth. They're not sharing
On property,
They're not
restaurant.
Yeah, the real world connection. They're not sharing that. They're not
Okay.
sharing what
I'll give you a couple points of stuff that's making me scared about stuff. Because right now, I know of people that are creating commonalities of you could take 5 hotels and all have a king bedroom, and they're all either categorized or classified or described 5 different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And fundamentally, if you can break down the commonalities of features or functions of any of those ones and create a unified term for them, then it's usable to be shared for data. While all the data pull into the CRMs, pillow types, coffee maker, TV type, TV size, number of channels, that is actually data that is accessible right now and is being accessed right now and being offered.
But wait,
Huh?
Those data points don't sell rooms? Like that's
Hold
not
on. No,
what
you're
travelers
right.
care about.
No, but hold on. That data is now being able to be translated from its source, from getting from the hotel,
Mm-hmm.
and is being offered to, say, Google.
Mhm.
Okay, and Google now has all the aspects of what your product is. Now they also have all the user behavior, and they have your competitors' data as well, just like they have your data. So they have 3 points of high value data compared to your 1 point of value data. So what I'm saying is that's going to be happening is where we think we're going to be able to have this aspirational relationship with our individualized guests and relate to them directly. Google will be ahead of them at the moment when they know that all the magic things from their search behavior, from their activity behavior, their location behavior, their history of behavior, they're going to go over and be able to determine that just when we are ready to offer our unique offer to them, they're going to go and step in front of us and say, hey, we have the perfect thing.
Sure.
They're going to offer your product to them in just the same way you would have done it, because they have 3 times the value of knowledge of just what we have compared to the user and the competitors. And that's what I'm saying is happening, or could be eventually happening, because that's where Google's stepping in right now with its commission-based program. They're saying, hey, we'll pay us 15% commission, and we'll know we'll pay for us to be in front of your guest whenever and on whatever platform we think is the most optimum conversion opportunity. And so they're taking our data and actually using it against us and charging us for it. And we look at it happily saying, oh, we're getting business from this, just like OTAs, the whole OTA model versus the direct channel value model.
Yeah.
You know. Oops.
By the way, when you talk like that, you should have a tinfoil. Just saying.
Okay. There we go. Facebook Live stopped. I don't know why. Probably all the other stuff I'm downloading, I lost bandwidth probably.
Right. Or the government stepped in and was like,
Yeah, exactly. Google shut them down. Google was like, dude, don't talk about that. Nobody's supposed to know about that.
No, I think what's happening is that as we offer more and more data from our CRM systems and so forth, we look at those digital avatars of our customers, just exactly what we're talking about. We want to be able to itemize our relationship to the individual so that we can best tailor our dynamic information to them. And yet we're kind of one piece to a larger puzzle where they're going to be able to do it better than us.
But here's the thing, like the level of data you're talking about is nothing to what they actually have on you. Let's not forget all these organizations that use Gmail. They know the contents of all your email.
Yeah.
They know what you're talking about. Like if we want to go into scary, that's scary. But here's the thing. No one seems to care. I don't even care. Why? Because Gmail works better than Exchange and works better than pretty much anything else out there. I mean, can't tell you how many hacked account emails I get from Yahoo people, because Yahoo, it just seems like they're being hacked all the time.
Yeah.
It's rare to see anything come through Gmail.
Right.
So I mean, and then you have to ask the question on that is like, people don't care. Businesses don't care, because businesses are using Gmail, and everyone knows that they're reading your email to figure out how to write to you and target you and everything. And then I think the question of them squeezing themselves in between, that's controlled. you can control that. And there is always an option to not feed that beast. And I have a feeling because of sensitivity to what's happened with the OTAs, which is, by the way, the OTAs didn't do anything sneaky. Like,
No.
this has all been coming. When you just completely depend on an OTA, what do you expect? Every year they're going to see what else you're willing to give for that dependency.
Right.
So I think if everyone's cautious and doesn't feed too heavily into, Google, go ahead and give people things before you give them to me, I think you can slow that from happening.
Right. Again, Ed and I are like so simpatico today. It's not even funny. I would look at it a slightly different way, but I agree with Ed's fundamental point. And, it's this. And I'm about to piss off all my hotel friends and all my clients and everybody else.
And this is good.
But this is reality, right? Where is it written? Where does it say? Where has it ever been true that the cost to acquire a guest is going to be zero? You're continually going to have to pay some part of the value chain, some amount of money to help you put your message in front of the right guest.
Yep.
That was true when we were buying billboards and printing directories and doing newspaper ads and things along those lines. And it's true with Google, and it's been true with the OTAs, and it's going to be true with Facebook, and it's going to be true with all of these players. What matters are two things. One is that there is a competitive market for access to guests. And as long as there is a Facebook and a Google and potentially an Amazon or an Apple or someone like that being another component of the value chain, we have a healthy competitive marketplace where we've got some options to keep them honest.
Yep.
The second thing is that, right. That like Ed just said, anytime you're having a discussion with any partner, and I use that word very carefully because as I wrote in that post I put the other day about Expedia, that was written by Melissa Mayer, who is the senior vice president of Expedia Partner Group. And as I said, you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Why are you smiling? I know something you don't.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not left-handed either. But the simple fact of the matter is, the way we should be approaching our partners today, if what we've gone through with OTAs over the last 15 years has taught us anything, it is that we should approach our OTAs the way black male widow spiders approach female black widow spiders. There's definitely some benefits available to you. You also have to be aware you could get eaten at the end of it. And so those are the two realities. We need to have a healthy ecosystem. We need to have a healthy marketplace where you're going to pay some non-zero amount to reach your customers. And you have to know that going in, that you might get your head bitten off. And so approach them cautiously and make sure that they're actually acting like a partner and not just using that word all the time without being a partner. And so, Google could do all that. And as long as there's someone else to help keep them honest, and as long as we keep them honest, or Facebook could do it, and as long as there's someone else to keep them honest and we keep them honest, or TripAdvisor, or Expedia, or Priceline, or
Microsoft,
or a couple
Apple.
Kids sitting in a garage who we haven't yet run across, and are sitting in a garage who we haven't yet met. Yeah, that's the reality, man. There's going to be some non-zero amount to reach those customers, and it's all about being smart in how you leverage them against one another to do it most effectively for your property and for your brand.
This is also where I, strongly encourage, if your job is marketing in this industry, you need to keep up on this stuff.
Right.
Because with Google developing it, that also means there's someone developing it for direct.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And that's always the case. Everything that all the big players prove out in their own models, someone is building a direct case of that to drive it straight to your site. And if you keep up on it, and if you keep a open mind to understanding, what these things are, this isn't going to bite you. It's going to, you're going to be prepared for it, because you don't need to be able to survive without it. You just need to have countermeasures that push back on what that could take. So if they get this much better and can get in front of a guest this way, you just need countermeasures that there is another guest that you'll be able to get in front of and win. And then the other big thing is remember what this is about. This is about hospitality.
Right.
So tech tricks and psychology and AI can do whatever it wants, but there is a tangible thing that you can win that they can't. And they can't because they don't own a hotel. They don't own the actual product. And because you own the product, that is also where you can compete. So yes, your CRM data about pillows and all this garbage will put you next to another property, but how are you going to be different than that property? And as long as you're different, you will have a group of people who care about the fact that you're different.
Oh, now you pissed off Tim. Tim's gone.
Man.
No, I think he was agreeing with you all this time. I don't think he's disagreeing with it at all. I do not disagree with you in any aspect. And the core of all this is being hospitality. And if anything, everything that we do is about the satisfaction of a single guest. And so no matter, to your point, any of the technology usage or whatever, my concern is that our voice will be silenced in a lot of ways, because we can't compete on an even playing field on the same platform that was created by the person that's now we're competing against, the Googles and the Facebooks. That's their sandbox. And we have to play by the rules they dictate to us. And if they get better at doing what they do because they have developed the relationship of success with the individual, then we are more of a commodity of that satisfaction than we actual relationship.
Well, just real quick, only if you allow yourself to be a commodity. That's one. Second, anytime anything swings into power, something else comes up to level it. Right. It's happened the whole time I've been in the hospitality industry, which I know is not nearly as long as Tim. But every time something scary was coming, by the time it started, actually usually just before it gets to true dominance, something else comes up. So Expedia and Booking.com started getting really scary. No, that's not scary. Airbnb is scary. Airbnb starts getting really scary. No, that's not scary. Google's scary. Google starts getting really scary. You have Facebook. Facebook starts getting really scary. Maybe Twitter will wake up. Snapchat. I mean, like, whatever it is, there's always going to be something that comes up as a counterbalance. Why? Because people are going to realize, and it may not be people in this industry, it may be startups, it may be something else, but someone's going to realize, wow, they're coming into power. So there's a play to be made to work against it, or to work a slightly different angle. And that actually then levels the power down. That creates a playing field. And if you just, like, I laugh. I mean, I can't tell you, I've been in this industry since 2000, because that's when I was no longer a teenager. And I can't tell you how many scary behemoths have been in the future. And I got to be honest with you, I haven't seen one.
I share your optimism. I mean, I do.
Well, it's just my experience.
I believe in the effect. I believe that there's the counterbalance to anything. There's the antithesis of another. I just feel that sometimes we're our own worst enemy to that. That
totally.
One example. Okay, so our industry's answer to the OTA rate parity stuff was to do this stupid. Not stupid. That's a bad word to say. This slightly less than intelligent. Let's have them sign up as a member. Hey, if you get to, it's like a bottle club in Texas. Okay, we can't serve alcohol unless you're a member of the club. So get to be a member of the club, and we'll give you alcohol. So in order to offer these unique membership rates, so they're flooded now. They have more membership signups, and what are they doing with it? Nothing. They're just signing them up. This is gold. All this signups. Yep.
Yeah, but you gotta think about it this way. So first of all, I do not recommend independent hotels try and take that angle. That's a pretty bad angle. If anything, think smaller business. So think about what companies do that sell on Etsy. They create a product to only be sold on Etsy,
Right.
and then they create other products that can be purchased. This is the way independent hotels should be thinking about how they merchandise on OTAs, on TripAdvisor, on any of these things. There should be something specific. So that's the small business. On the big business side, here's the thing, and you know as well as I do, this was the smartest move. Hilton, Marriott, Hyatt, IHG, everyone who copied Hilton, this was the smartest thing they could have done, because now, first of all, they realized everyone will give away their privacy for a discount. There's no question about that. So now they know more about these people. And yes, they are probably ill prepared to do anything with it, but they have it.
They have it.
And they're changing behavior. I was literally talking to my wife's aunt and uncle last night about, how do you book? Like, how do you book? And I said, well, now you can get a better rate on, Hilton and Marriott and all that. And they're like, yeah, that was never the case. You always got better rates on the OTA, which wasn't true.
But that was the story we told people.
But that was the consumer's training. Right. So how do you dislodge consumer training? By retraining them. And you retrain them that if you're a member, and membership has no cost, membership only has benefits. That's like, if you look at any of these, right. So if you become a member, then you get this. So now they've got the base, they're retraining the consumer. They've got time to figure out what to do with this stuff. And guess what? They'll also be able to recruit better people than they've probably been able to recruit in the past, because they now actually have some of the largest databases in the world. Right. That in itself is going to be attractive to the talent who wants to do things with it.
Well, and this is this is a shameless plug for you, for Flip2. Your path from a product point of view is probably one of the strongest paths that independent hotels can start taking. They can't do, to your point, they can't do what Hilton did or Marriott did and say, oh, be a member on our independent website and we're going to be able to give you an offer different. I mean, they have no scale to it. But they have to create that relationship value. Yes. And that relationship value comes from, to Tim's point, I'm looking down like the Brady Bunch. To Tim's point, it's about...
I'm Cindy.
You totally are.
Well, it's the curls. That's what it is.
Yes.
But it's to trading them off of the OTAs. The OTAs said that the value that they offered was better than what you would get from the hotel. And in fact, using your methodology, Ed, that if I can develop a unique relationship with you, then the value, I've retrained that guest to know, deal with me, I will always take care of you.
Yep.
And that ability to talk to their friends and those friends and so forth are high value at that point.
Well, and let's be honest, that's real loyalty. What is real loyalty? Loyalty is you can speak to someone, and at the end of it, they want to hear from you again.
Right.
I mean, that's real loyalty. That's, points don't drive loyalty. Gamification doesn't drive loyalty. Loyalty is you can send me something, and the end result of that something you sent me is looking forward to seeing the next thing you send me. I will remember that. So that's actually not hard to get there. And that's what drew me to Flip2 is, when you first look at it, you think it's a social media company. Nope. Has nothing to do with that. It uses social as distribution, which I love that. What it really is it's about changing the tone of your relationship with your guest, and then introducing to your database something that very few hotels get in any volume whatsoever, which is a warm lead that hasn't yet been a guest. So think about how all these organizations add people to their databases. They do it through booking. So they do it really late in the game. So how do you beat an OTA? How do you beat Google's scariness? It's by getting in front of someone in a trusted way before they've even decided to travel.
Right.
And that's what Flip2 does. Like that's really what we do. Now, you don't hear us talk about it a lot because that is a heady concept. Like that's pretty tough to, really conceptualize, but fundamentally it's what we do is we get to a person in a trusted way well before it's even on their radar.
Right. No, absolutely. We're actually about to pilot. I think Ed knows this, but one of my clients is actually signing up with Flip2 right now.
A really cool property.
It's a very cool property with this.
You've been agreeing with that all morning. Is that why?
He hasn't gotten the quote yet, so he's just kind of layering it on.
Right. Right now, I'm playing good cop. but you know what the metaphor I use for properties a lot, and you mentioned independence, and I think for independence is you want to be Apple, you want to be the iPhone specifically, and this is not. I realize there are people who have religious debates about this stuff. This has nothing to do with religion. This is a business situation. Apple's iPhone holds, depending on whose numbers you believe, 15 to 20% of the market share of the smartphone industry.
Right.
And they control somewhere between, depending on whose numbers you look at, 85 to 95% of the profits in the industry.
Yes.
Because they are a premium product. They are able to charge a premium product. And every time they introduce a new one, people line up for blocks outside their store.
Guilty.
That's loyalty. There's no card. There's no points. There's no anything. There's a line full of people standing outside your door waiting to hand you more money than anyone else charges for basically the same thing you can buy from anybody. That's loyalty.
Yep.
Right. And, you know, when hotels do this well, when independent hotels do this well, or chain hotels do this well, we see this again and again and again, that it doesn't mean you have to be a premium hotel. It just means you could be a premium RevPAR relative to your chain scale, right? If you're mid-scale, your RevPAR index should be 105, should be 110, should be 115 if you actually have true loyalty.
Right.
And if you don't, you're letting yourself be a commodity, and then the things you should be scared about, you should be scared about.
Exactly.
But not because of the fact that Google's going to come and like kill your children in the middle of the night, but because you're actually not helping guests solve their problems and choose you in the first place and want to go back there every time they stay in your town.
Yeah, and I'll give you a perfect example. I'll give you two hotels. One's a Flip2 client. One is owned by an ex-business partner of mine who was involved in Easy Yield. The Flip2 client is Adrift. Now, if you go look at Adrift, it's in Long Beach, Washington. Before we were working with them, you looked at them, you could see they were kind of cool, but you couldn't really understand why. When we turned on collecting their guest stories, it's the number one hotel we speak about at Flip2. Everyone here wants to go there. But if you actually look at it, it looks like a commercial building that was built out to look kind of funky to become a hotel. And it has a lot of things that are challenging about it. Like, you know, it's on the ocean, but between it and the ocean is its parking lot, right? But they nailed guest experience. They nailed it. They nailed, you know, understanding that, yes, this, what probably would have been seen as a challenging building happened to be in a really good location, and what they could do to get guests to realize that on things like having bicycles for everyone and, you know, doing things like this. And the way you see it is when you go look at the guest experience, it is emotional. Like the content we collect of like, there are a couple firsts for us. First, cat at a hotel they got. And at first you look at it and you're like, holy smokes, this person had their cat in like this baby sling type thing. And it was a picture of the cat with the ocean in the background. But no, that's not Adrift. Like that would have been enough for anyone. The guests of Adrift, oh, that cat was paraplegic. And this is its first time traveling. Like, and like, picture of a dog at sunset, and it's like dog's first trip to the ocean. Oh, because I adopted it from Afghanistan. And this is just consistent, but it's also because Adrift, you can call and speak to the owner. You talk to the staff cares. Like they got experience correct. If that was any brand in that location on that property, wouldn't have near the loyalty. Because they would just be following the formulaic, you know what, we do this, we do that, we do this, and they would, you know, be going after that. And I think it would be a challenged location even because of it. But because these people who run it and, you know, work there, like just believe in it and believe in the experience they're giving, and they're cool people, that works out well. The other hotel I'll talk about is Hotel 57 in Sydney. Okay, and my business partner from Easy Yield, Chris Kudneres, it's his newest hotel. It's in a really cool neighborhood where hotels don't exist. And the reason he did that is the building was cheap. It wasn't built to be a hotel. He built it out to be a hotel. And some of the things he did to save money, like convince the city that he doesn't want to update the facade because he wants it to be contemporary 70s Sydney, really paid off for him. And Chris builds his stuff using the Target style. So it's really well designed, as cheap as it can possibly be. And so because of that, it wasn't an expensive hotel to build. But there have been multiple photo shoots from fashion magazines, major racing organizations stay there all the time. And his staff, when they see repeat guests, get a picture of that guest. They go up in the Wall of Fame. Every staff member walks by it. So everyone knows who their most important guest is. And because of that, the hotel is full, and it's getting a ridiculous ADR because it's full. And all it is attention to detail, user experience, and well-trained staff. Like, nothing else will disrupt that type of business. I don't care if Google figures out how to implant devices in our heads that make us want to make a decision. Businesses like the Adrift, like the 57, they are the businesses that will survive any shift of power and anything like that. So the question is what can you make out of your hotel? Because not every hotel is in the Garment District of Sydney. Actually, there are no other hotels in the Garment District of Sydney because it's starting to come around as a neighborhood. Most people don't know there's a Long Beach, Washington. So what do you do about it? You make sure that the people who do know about it have such an experience that they tell people about it.
Almost right there. If we were to take a voice snippet and say, This is a statement to be made. What you just said, Ed, is perfect because
you're very echoey.
Yeah, what?
This feels important.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen.
That's weird. Okay. What you said was, it's like, how do we make sure we're relevant? Because my counter argument to yours would be like, hey, look, you can be everything you want to be. I'm to play devil's advocate to the conversation. You can be everything you want to be. If nobody knows you're there, it doesn't make a difference. You just made the statement that counters that. Yeah, okay, you're right. I can't control Google. I can't control how people find their hotels and stuff. I can maybe influence it at best. But what I can control is that those that do know about me, let those that they know about me as well. Right. And that is something that will not go away. If there's any truism to what we just said, that probably has to be the defining statement out of it in my mind, because that really is ultimately the answer to any independent hotels looking at Goliath, saying, I can't touch that. I can't even whack the toenail off of that guy. Yeah, and you don't have to. You have to just make sure that the people you interact with know about you. Of course, there's always a starting point. You have to have a starting point. You have to have that first guess. But
sure. But the first guess, even think about that. Let's argue that. Let's look at how Airbnb scaled. Airbnb scaled completely on word of mouth and made sure that they were so obsessed with blowing people's minds that they would talk about it. Not this formulaic, kind of homogenized approach that companies have taken to trying to get advocacy and things like that. I'm talking service with the whole, hey, we want to work with more people like you. Hopefully you want to work with us again. So can you tell people that that are like you? And they scaled that way. So they were no one a couple of years ago. And yet everywhere I go now, they are the biggest, scariest thing right now in the back of most hoteliers' minds. And it's like they totally just nailed hospitality, and through nailing hospitality and making it personal, they're eating everyone's lunch and they have everyone scared. You can fight back. Remember that it's about hospitality, and give an experience that makes the person want to go and talk about it, and do that in a good way, and nothing else matters. And when you talk about starting from scratch, great. I think of the Grove that's opening in Orlando, a new Benchmark property. Friends and family. You always have a starting point because you have employees. And because you have employees, you have friends and family. Do something really cool for friends and family, and you've started the ripple. You've dropped the pebble in the water. Now watch the waves grow.
So I was just meeting with a major consumer packaged goods company last year. You've heard of them. I can't speak to the specifics for obvious reasons, but nonetheless, they said that they knew unequivocally when they started a new brand, historically, they knew that it was $1 billion investment.
That makes sense.
Piece of cake, right? It was going to cost them at least $1 billion to get people to buy the first tube of toothpaste or to buy the first roll of toilet paper or things along those lines. And they are shifting everything that they do around marketing and everything that they do around advertising because of people like Uber and because of people like Airbnb. And they've suddenly started to say, wait a second, it doesn't cost this much to build a brand. It doesn't cost this much to get people to be aware of who you are. And so these are huge companies who are spending tons more money than most of us will ever deal with, saying that's simply not necessary any longer. Right. It's very, very simple.
And part of the reason for that is we as human beings, each individual has a larger sphere of influence today than celebrities in the 1910s did.
Yeah. Some might even call it your secret sales force, Ed.
Well,
one quick when I go over and I speak to the universities and so forth, the kids, because it's so hard when you go to talk to these college kids. First off, that they're in a classroom, so they don't care who's talking. So you got to get them something excited about or something. So what I do is I usually ask them, all right, so just to show you that you have the ability to be better than any marketing agency, I go through the exercise and ask them how many followers they have on the top 3 social channels. And we put the numbers together. And then I just hack the heck out of them, take half of them as being irrelevant, blah, 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 that they know each other. Anyway, I bring it down to just less than 10% of the number associated with everybody that has a direct influence and that somebody would listen to what they have to say, and make the point that still fills the Jerry's American Airlines Stadium here. 100,000 people. That they still, a group of 30 kids can actually effectively communicate to 100,000 people that they're actually going to get the message and see it and maybe act on it. And it brings, we lost Ed.
We lost Ed. Ed's like, I dropped the mic. I've made my point. I'm out.
Yeah, that's it. He's like, all right, out. That's it. Oh my God. There he is. He's coming back.
I George Costanza'd you, by the way.
but to your point, it is the silent audience. It is the people that you are communicating. We do have a larger digital avatar relationship with people now, which also creates the definition of what makes something viral too. You share only what makes you look good to your people.
That's right.
So if you have a great experience and you want to share it, the similarities get rippled out. To your point,
I'll give you one other
for Ed's company and for something I wrote. Then I'll give
you one more fun example of that. So we have a very large hotel that's part of a proof of concept for a very large brand working with us, and this hotel received a guest story that they weren't sure they wanted to curate, and it was because it wasn't hugely about the hotel. It was about what they did while they were staying at the hotel, and it had very little to do, but it was about the trip. And we're like, listen, it's a really good picture and it's a really good story. Go ahead and hit go. And they hit go. Turns out this woman who submitted the photo is a very popular mommy blogger and shared to like 1,500 people. Well, evidently she's a really well-liked mommy blogger because her network then shared on. And in 1 week, this mommy blogger's photo, which again, this was, hey, you inspire us, share us your story. And then you can compete. And if you win, you may get 2 free nights. But really nothing changed hands to get the initial share. But in 1 week, her and her network sharing eclipsed the reach of the major brands conglomerate Twitter, the actual brands Twitter, and the hotel's Twitter.
Wow.
1 photo, 7 days.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
that goes to the female Chewbacca girl. I mean, just
oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, of course.
I mean, everybody. Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So the link I just put up was to a blog post I wrote for Flip2 not long ago. And in it, I just ran some quick numbers just to put this in context, which is if you're a 100-room hotel and you're running at 60% occupancy and your typical room's got 1.5 people in it, you're hosting 31,000 people a year in your property.
Yep.
And if you just go by standard numbers of connections, a bunch of people have about somewhere between 1 and 100 friends. Some have 100 to 250. Some have 250 to 500, and a handful are going to have over 500.
The average is 224.
The average is 224, but it's a weighted average and all this other kind of stuff. Okay, so depending on whose numbers you go, that means you have the ability to theoretically reach anywhere between 4.5 million people and 8.5 million people over the course of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you give them something to talk about.
Yep.
Period.
And like the Chewbacca mask, it has
Yeah.
some emotion to
Yeah.
it. It brightens someone's day. It travels further. If you go to our blog, we did a photo competition with the Nick Hotel in Orlando before they switched off of Nickelodeon. And in 3 months, just 3 months, their guest submitting these stories eclipsed all of their marketing reach. And it was because their friends and family liked it. Their friends and family liked it, so they popped it out. Someone looked at it, it felt good, it got shared again, and it got shared again, and it got shared again. It only takes 3 shares to reach 10,000 people in Facebook.
Right.
Like, I share, then one of you shares, and the other one of you shares because you didn't like me as much, but since the other one did. And you've got 10,000 people read.
It's all the old jokes, Ed. That's
what it is. That's what it is. Okay.
One day, your
just
kids
to say that
get
old
to do
stuff
that
and
to me.
new stuff.
Yeah,
What we're talking about is kind of old school marketing. I'll give you. Yeah. It is. It's word of mouth. But I'll bring you a page in my history of something. When I used to own restaurants, when I first started working for hotels, I had this negative viewpoint of people that worked in the food and beverage department of the hotel because I thought they were spoiled children. Because for me, when I had my own restaurant, if the toilet was plugged, guess who cleaned it? If there was a light fixture that had to get fixed, I had to fix it. And in a hotel, you had housekeeping clean stuff and engineers fix stuff. And I'm sitting there so the servers are standing around bitching about the fact they didn't get many people down for breakfast, or they didn't have many people come from the meeting. And I'm like, you lazy ass people, It's like. So I would do things, and this is a little chapter of my history. When my first hotel, we had this breakfast issue. People were coming out for breakfast. They were literally going across the street to places to go have breakfast because it was that convenient. Right. So I noticed as an engineer was walking me around, it says, "Yeah, these are our chillers in the hotel." And I'm like, "Well, what are chillers?" He says, "Well, we use a centralized system to air condition the whole building." I'm like, "Really? Where's the intake?" Right there. So I cooked some bacon, brought it over about 6 in the morning in the room where the air was being sucked. People were like, "Where's Mom and breakfast sales?" Boom, baby.
The bacon bomb.
The bacon bomb. Anytime we needed breakfast sales. And then I would do the same thing for meeting rooms where they were on their own. They had lunch break for on their own. No problem. I would bring in, and I'd say, "Can I come into the room and at least introduce what we have for lunch specials?" I brought food with me. A couple of samples. It's the little thing, those are the little things like you're talking about. Those are the things that get shared. Those things like, "Oh, that's tasty. I'm hungry now. Yeah, let's go." "Well, it's right there. Great, let's go." It's changing the mindset of these people. And then progressively technology gets in the way. I used to do it for texting just before lunches to get more capture. You text people that, "Hey, where lunch is here, buy one, get one," or something. But, marketing's marketing, just the tools get changed. That's all. But I did throw some links in. One that we kind of grew from people joining us that's way up there. I don't know whether you guys ever saw that link for the new system called Vive, V-I-V. People that originally started Siri and then went into that. That's incredible. I mean, it writes its own program language so that it can answer in milliseconds your question. And it's not just like, "What's the weather?" but, "Pay Tim $20 that I owe him for drinks last night," and it takes care of it kind of thing. I find that, I don't know if you guys had looked at that and then you add that to the Google Assistant stuff. It's like, man, that's scary stuff to think that we're going to be in that level of dialogue, that those platforms are going to be that system.
It goes back to something Ed said at the top of the show, which is you have to have content.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have to have good quality content, because what these systems depend on is, instead of people reading the content out there and being able to interpret the answer and the like, the systems read the content. And now they have to be able to say, when somebody says, "What's the best hotel in Cedar Rapids, Iowa?" they need to know it's the hotel at Kirkwood Center, right? And they need a shameless plug for one of my clients.
We all do
spectacular
that
people. Yeah, no.
It's all right.
Yeah.
But without the content, they'll never know that.
Right.
They'll never know the answer to the question. And
the content goes beyond what the website stuff now. The content is what you're saying, Ed, is dialogue between you and your
Yeah.
audiences and so forth.
Totally.
It goes beyond just the static stuff.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
Because before the internet, that's what relationships were.
Right.
That's right.
The internet dumbed us down for a bit. We couldn't get our arms around what it takes. And then it turned into like a cash cow where it was like you could put up anything. And business started coming in, and
Right.
you hired, these guys that you didn't like talking to, and they all of a sudden drove more business to you and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's now the tech and the architecture is catching up, understanding that if it's just sterile, if it's just a series of facts, it can only go so far. Right. Even if it's super convenient, any of that, when it becomes emotional, when it becomes a way of changing your life, that's when you get to like crazy escape velocity.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's when unicorns sprout unicorns with rainbows coming out of them. Like, and what's been showing that is the pace of which companies have been able to come up, really just think about user experience and that first, and then all of a sudden, bam, $1 billion valuation.
Yeah.
And everyone's going, how is that $1 billion valuation? Well, let's face it, their business model's better. Well, why is their business model better? Their business model's better because they thought it all the way through human interaction.
Right.
And that's it. Like, because again, you could put anything you want between people. People are emotional, people are irrational, people are all these things. If you don't play into that, you're robbing them of a part of enjoyment. If you play into it, like there's money to be made there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So very true.
Talk to anybody. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And, talk to anybody whose career started before the internet and ask them, was it easy? Was it a piece of cake to go out and find customers? Was it simple? Did you just open your doors and people came rolling in? And the answer is, of course not. You had to work hard. And now we have the internet, and we've had the internet for quite a while, and people are starting to say, well, shouldn't it be easy? Well, no, of course not. There's still competition. You still are competing with the guy across the street. You're still competing with the guy down the block. You're still competing with all the other destinations out there. You are also competing with the OTAs and people
right.
along those
the guys
lines.
Who think they're better than you at it.
The guys who think
sell your stuff for you.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's it. And what the internet has done is it's made it easier for you to try to reach people.
Right.
But if you don't do a good job of reaching people, it also has made it easy for everybody else to do the same thing.
Right. Well, and the internet, unlike before the internet, is not just a giant carrot. It is a big, painful stick. Do it
You're
right.
full of quotes today. You are full of quotes today. That's another one we're just going to have to write on.
But it's true if you think about it. You do it right and you nail it, and it rains. You do it wrong, and it's so painful. And that is another big shift and difference in how business is done. And there's a fine line between doing it right and amazing, and doing it completely wrong, and it's offensive and is destructive.
I got. It's gonna be like the Princess Bride movie here. I'm just gonna have to quote this blab. Now it's like Ed said this. Okay, I threw up. Last week I talked about without you guys. I'd like to throw up just the topic and get you guys' feedback about the Facebook's not so secret release of their dynamic ads for travel or DATs.
Yeah,
what you guys, your interpretation perspective of it is.
I love it.
I love it. I think it's spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, Facebook as a vehicle of how to reach consumers, I think they're the most innovative company out there. And I think they ride an amazing balance, because if you actually look at their CPC, their CPM, their conversion, their cost of conversion, all of that stuff, they are fundamentally cheaper than any other platform out there. But they create things that feel good for the person who's receiving it, which also makes it more successful. Facebook also does an amazing job of training its businesses, so their customers, on how to use these things. So this model is just brilliant. And if I was Google, my number one concern would be Facebook.
I would argue it is.
Yeah.
If you watched the keynote they did the other day from their AdWords and analytics.
Oh yeah, that shows it. Yeah.
And literally, I started counting at a certain point, and in the period I counted, in about 35, 40 minutes, Google representatives must have said 10 times, only Google can do this in terms of whatever it was. And I was thinking, that's not true. Facebook can do that. But they were trying to like tell their customers, no, spend your advertising money here.
Look over here. Look over here.
Exactly.
Don't look over here.
Yeah. And
pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Exactly. And I thought it was incredibly. So first off, I agree with everything. Ed and I are like twins today. But I think that it also goes back to it creates a competitive marketplace. It will force Google to do a better job and offer a better product. It will.
You hope, because Apple Android hasn't proven that out to be a true thing.
Fair enough. Yeah, but they make all their money from advertising. That's the difference.
Right.
So you would hope it will force them to compete effectively. You would hope it's going to force TripAdvisor and Priceline and Expedia to compete more effectively. So fundamentally, I think it's a great thing. The more players there are in the marketplace who give us ways to reach our customers, the better it is for us trying to actually do that.
But what's
amazing,
on
top of that, I think it's a really cool product.
They also do it cheaper.
And
that's not their key point. Normally it's, hey, we're coming in to compete, we're going to be cheaper, and that's our key selling point.
Right.
No, their key selling point is it's fundamentally better, it's fundamentally easier, and it makes more money. And oh, by the way, I think it's in the US, it's 35 cents CPC for Facebook versus $1.58 for AdWords.
I want to go back to something you said before, Ed, when you talked about every time there's a threat, new entrants come in. And there's a Jeff Bezos quote that I use constantly, usually to beat up Amazon, frankly, but it's true of just the way the market works, which Jeff Bezos has said for years, your margin is my opportunity. And the simple fact is, right now, Facebook is looking at Google's margin and saying, right? And that's good for us, fundamentally.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
No, I just think it's great.
One thing I have to add to the data information and so forth, it goes back to my Skynet conversation, is dealing with Derbysoft and their connectivity to it right now. The data points, Facebook is wondering how much data they can voraciously eat for more relevant service of these. I mean, obviously the ARI is very easy to do for dynamic rates and availability, inventory, and all that kind of stuff. But they're looking at all this other profile information about the product and trying to incorporate that into the methodology of the data services. And it really goes back to getting that data in their hands. You're creating this intimate familiarity from Facebook's perspective with your product, and they already have the intimate familiarity with their users. Mm-hmm. So again, the fear of potential commoditization, because you may not ever be a part of that conversation. You start adding that to the voice in interactions like Vive and stuff like that, and you may not be, once something that's passed through, you may be offered up rather than be a part of that conversation, which only validates what you're saying.
Only for the first buy. After the first buy, you have all the opportunity in the world.
The best point to make out of today. I go back to the statement that I appreciate that statement, and that was, you have control over your relationship with your guests once you get them. You may lose the battle of getting them, maybe, what I'm saying, but once you have them, it's up to you to give them that one-to-one hospitality service, which is,
and it's worth doing, because if you can make it to where you only got them once through that channel, 15% is cheap.
Yeah.
So that's cheap if you get a lifetime customer for a 15% spend. Holy smokes, that's cheap. That's cheaper. Honestly, if you actually did the math, if you could make it to where a good percentage of your business that came through these expensive channels, if you won the relationship and you won true loyalty, that would be a cheaper source of customer than your own direct channels.
But that's what the OTA has been thrown over everybody's head for so long. It's just the stupidity of our industry to keep wanting to take business from them and not building culture relationship with their business that they got. They never really converted well the business they were getting from OTAs. They just took the business and never made a relationship that they got them as a direct channel at that point.
The other challenge with business from the OTAs, first off, I agree with Ed completely. I agree with what you're saying, Lauren. The one issue with business that you get from the OTAs is, depending on where you're located, sometimes that business is somebody who's only going to stay in your town once.
Right.
So it does come back more to, getting that person to want to be able to tell your story to other people who they might be talking to on social or friends or family or things along those lines. It's all about winning the experience, because you may not be able to get that guest as a repeat guest just because of the nature of their travel habits.
But fundamentally, we all talk to people who are similar to us.
Right.
And through that, these are people who make similar decisions to us and are in similar parts of their life. So if I travel to this city for only once, that means there's someone else that I know that is probably going to be in the same situation.
That's right.
You have to travel to that city at least once.
And it comes up in conversations. Oh, you should go see such and such. I stayed at such and such and it was so good, or whatever. And although you may not have them come back as a lifetime guest because they have no reason to return, it's been passed on to somebody else. To your point, Ed, that they enjoy the product at that point.
Pass the torch.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's back to old school before internet days. Families traveled to a destination. They were treated well. They came back with their great stories. You always have 2 vacations, one you actually had, the one you talk about. You come back, you tell your friends, and the friends go because you had a great experience. And now every year the family goes to that location, and that's how they built their business.
I mean, Wisconsin Dells. Perfect example of that. There's no reason to go there. Unless you were the first person who went there and it was horrible and you were like, holy smokes, this was the most amazing thing. Next year, someone else goes. And then all of a sudden, indoor water parks pop up and now it's like the indoor water park capital. But if you actually look at why people go there, it's a head scratcher. But that is proof that experience wins because it's hard to get to. It's cold most of the year, but there is a couple weeks of the year that they have a lake and, have an amazing outdoor thing. All right, how do you stretch it? Put a cover over it. But that's a perfect example of how those things grow and solidify. I'm from southern New Hampshire, where it's heavily Canadian settled. Happen to be Canadian. There's a reason why I lived in southern New Hampshire, because someone followed someone else. Yeah. And that's what human beings do. We migrate. We do things like that because other people did it. So if you think about that in business, that's how you can get really good results and not have to constantly be worried about who's moving your cheese, right? It's all going to be about just making sure. And oh, by the way, it's more fun to do business that way.
Yeah.
It's more fun to build real relationships and bring real value to the people that you're working with. Why? Because they show their appreciation. They want to talk to you. They want to do these things. So if you like people, you can do really well. If you don't like people, all right.
If you don't like people, you're in the wrong business.
Right.
Yeah, you're in the wrong business already. Yeah.
Fundamentally.
Yep.
And you just described all of Florida, by the way.
Yep. Yeah. Have you guys seen
parts of Florida?
Have you seen the Minion movie?
Yeah.
Okay, the Minion movie, they travel to a convention. So it takes place in like the 60s, and they travel to a convention in Orlando, Florida, where the evil convention is going to be. And when they come to the scene that they finally get to Orlando, you see this beautiful, like what Orlando looks like. Yeah, it's a billboard. It's like coming soon.
Yeah.
This raggedy road, which is our major interstate, in the middle of swamps to this like bait shack. And that was Orlando in the 60s.
Yeah,
Look at Vegas before Vegas. Same thing.
Vegas was nothing.
Desert.
Yep.
Before we run out of time, because I love these things, but also know all of a sudden we look and go, holy crap, it's one and such and such. With high tech coming up, and we only have probably I think one more show before that. And I don't know if you were here before. I know Tim knows, but I'm going to be broadcasting from there every day anyway.
You told me.
Oh, I did.
You're welcome. You're welcome to use our booth if you need to do interviews after hours or anything like that. We have a nice couch and a good backdrop.
Nice. I'm going to bring my photo gear because I'm driving. But I was going to do that and do it off-site and do a little G2PD action, hashtag stealing, and just normal fun marketing stuff.
Reallocating.
Reappropriation of assets.
Reappropriation of hashtags.
But you mentioned earlier that you're looking forward to high tech. I mean, what are some things that you're looking at? What are some players that you think you'd like to know more about? And so we didn't by any chance get to talk about product today and that kind of stuff. So
I'm really excited about. So I'm going to be a guest judge again at the H20X, the startup competition. I love doing that. I love seeing what's coming out. I love seeing what everyone's working on. I love helping transition them from some of the naivety that led them down their path and help, here's some reality. So I'm really excited about that. I love ROC, HSMAI's Revenue Optimization Conference. I've been attending that for as long as I can remember, because it's just great. I kind of look at the people who go to that, and they're the adults in the room. They're the ones who really are obsessed with figuring out how to do it and how to do it right, and then how to do it better and how to do it better than that. So that's real fun. It's in New Orleans. We'll forgive that. We need a cooler weather June location, by the way. Yeah. HFTP. Minneapolis is my favorite. But then, from vendor perspective, it's always interesting to see what the theme of this year is going to be. Back when I was easy old days, it was monster CRS booths and monster PMS booths. And I noticed I took a couple years off. I came back and all the CRSs were gone. And, all the monsters kind of said, yeah, you know what? We're not spending $300,000 on a booth anymore. And, and so now you see a lot more innovation and startup. So I'm going to be looking around guest experience. I think that's kind of the next interesting wave of tech, and especially anyone who can figure out how to do it without connecting to the property management system. Because if you can do that, you can scale. If you can't do that, you're going to end up one of the 40 companies that integrated with 3 PMSs and got a customer base.
Right.
And then just seeing the same people who are there every year. I kind of feel like I've been traveling with the same people to that show for 12 years now. I think it's my 12th high tech. So 13th high tech.
So this will be only the second I've never spoken at. I get to go over and throw you with ROC, which, by the way, gentlemen, I'll be asking for your advice. I put together the topics. I have a 35-minute breakout on distribution.
Cool. And I like distribution.
Yeah,
I love it.
I'll shoot you over my header and my topic list between Meta and all this other stuff I'm throwing in there, and see what I'd love to take your advice and insights and see. I'm also going to do my first live broadcast of 360 on it. I told you about that app. So I'm going to do a live 360 camera in front and just play with stuff. I mean, that and do live Facebook and all that. But Tim, what are you looking for?
So I'm attending ROC as well. Looking forward to ROC quite a bit. I always think that that's a great experience. Certainly catching up with people. One of the things that I find interesting, and Ed, I think you were touching on this, is sometimes you don't know where things are going till you walk the floor.
Yeah. Yep.
And as you walk the floor, you start to see themes emerge of, oh, wow, there's a whole bunch of players starting to explore this place or starting to bring things to market that we haven't seen before. So, the last couple of years, there's been a lot of emphasis on CRM. Mm-hmm. There's been some beginnings of emphasis on guest experience and the like, and how we can maybe take some of the digital technologies that we've been doing with sales and marketing over the last 15 years and start to make them more effective on property and throughout the guest journey. So I expect to see more of that. But I'm also interested to see what's the theme that emerges. What are the things that we need to be paying more attention to that we're not? I'm certainly looking for anything that helps hotels get their content in front of guests more effectively, that helps them maintain and distribute content more effectively, that helps them tell their story more effectively. So those are sort of the things that I'm looking for.
You're excited to come and see Flip 2.
I know Flip 2.
I really appreciate it, guys. I mean, you don't have to do this. I'll come anyways.
I do lots of shameless plugs for me, but let me do a shameless plug for Flip 2 just for a second. No. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this candidly. There's a reason why I enjoy talking to Ed. There's a reason why I enjoy these discussions, and it's because when you look at the marketplace, there's a big hole in the marketplace, or has been a big hole in the marketplace, for how to do things like this. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple players who kind of skirt around it. But I think Flip 2 has the right model. And I'm not just doing a commercial. I want to be very fair.
I'll say the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it solves a problem that hotels that I think I said this to Ed after the first time we had a conversation about Flip 2. What they can put in practice is something I've been advising hotels to do for the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 years, that there wasn't an easy way to do it. Mm-hmm. And they've provided an easy way to do it. And I think that's a really good thing. In candor, in fairness, it's not going to be the perfect solution for every hotel.
Agreed.
But Ed would be the first one to tell you that.
Yeah, we say no a lot.
The right hotel, he'd
actually.
say no.
Yeah,
right.
we say no a lot. And we're rarely wrong when we say no. There have been a couple ones that have pushed through the no and then proved us completely wrong.
Right.
But it was because they were an exception. But it's not for every hotel. Right. And it's definitely not for a hotel that's underperforming to expectation. So if you aren't delivering your promise, this isn't for you. You're not going to get a lot out of it.
Yeah, you can't bullshit.
And that's just it. The worst thing you want to do, there are 2 things you want to do. The second worst thing you can do is encourage your customers to tell your story if your story sucks.
Yes.
You're giving them a megaphone saying, please, tell everybody else.
The worst thing you can do, so that's the second worst.
Yeah.
The worst thing you can do is spend money to enable that.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're doing it, it doesn't cost you any actual hard dollars to do that. That's bad.
Right.
If you're paying money and enabling that to happen, that's really bad.
Yeah.
That's just not a good way to go.
And by the way, if your story sucks, get another job. Leave, go where the story's better, or make the story better. Your story shouldn't suck. There's no reason you can't have a great story. Challenge can be changed to quirkiness with the right type of paint and spin. And
it goes back to
I worked for years selling economy scale properties, and we had properties who rocked because they were able to say, look, we know you're not coming here to come here. We're not a resort, but let us tell you about all the cool things around us. And sometimes the cool thing around us was the giant ball of string.
Yep.
Right? And properties did very well because they told a good story about what their actual value to the guest was. And any property can do that.
If you set the promise correctly and you deliver on the promise, your story doesn't suck.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
That's the thing. And that's the bottom line. There's many examples of just leaning into your problems and, being honest about them, and you're good.
But it goes back to the old adage of I used to have restaurants. If your food sucks, you shouldn't open a restaurant.
Right.
Everything else can be perfect. But if your food sucks, fundamentally you're there to serve food. And if for hotels and hospitality, if fundamentally you're not providing hospitality, okay, a bed can be a bed, but if you're not providing hospitality, then you're at the core. No matter what else you do, it's still going to be bad because you're not providing the baseline of what you're there for. So
that's exactly right.
Yeah, very true for it. For me, for high tech. To be candid, this is my first chance running around on my own, where I'm not front facing of either a hotel ownership group or an agency or blah, blah. It's me, and since my head is so much in the metaspace space now, I feel like that little kid on I See Dead People. I feel like I'm walking.
Lauren,
wait, you're saying Meta are all dying?
Let me do the quotes and the analogy. That would be the Sixth Sense.
Okay. Dead people. Because I'm looking around and I'm seeing how the world's getting connected in a way I never had before. I'll be frank. This has been eye-opening for me on some of the work that I've been doing and some of the conversations I've been engaged with at this point globally. That's the thing that get me going. The C-Trip and stuff and how things are connected in ways and stuff has really been an eye-opener for me. And then having the luxury of then sitting down with engineers and seeing what really can be pieced together. And I do the analogy of Skynet, but it is one of these things where I'm like, man, it scares me, but it excites me as to where all this is going and connecting. And for me, being so heavy with the meta search that I'm looking at where and how the space is being occupied, the deficiencies that people are saying that they're doing it well and they're really just scraping screens. And then the others that are really pulling the dynamic data realistically and creating what other data do you want kind of environment. So it's going to be fun for me walking around. But then there's the old things that you're familiar with, because it has been years I've been going to high tech, where I like the fringe aisles, where they barely scraped enough money to put a booth. They do not have anything more than the table they were given and the curtain behind them.
And maybe a banner.
Yeah.
Maybe a banner, right?
Yeah, maybe a banner. They have no tchotchkes. Nobody's walking by to grab any scoopy, things from. But they're the people you want to talk to. Their heads in the game. They're there. Now, not all their products are going to live, and that was an all-in chip thing to get the booth to be there, maybe. But there's nuggets of gold there too. There's people that they see something and they're trying to fit that, like you said, Tim, that margin of opportunity for a competitor. And those are the ones you love talking to, because they don't bring the cute people into their booth just so that they can talk to volumes of people. I mean, you have the one smart and the five cutes. Right. You're talking to the guy whose fingers are on the keyboard, or the girl whose fingers are on the keyboard, doing whatever it is that they're talking about doing. I love talking to them. I am going to run around a little bit with a video camera, because I think I like getting people to. There's so many products that are in the roster of vendors this year that I want to hear what they say about themselves. And I think I'm going to try to leverage the media thing and say, okay, 2 minutes. Here's a camera. Give me your pitch. Give me what it is you do in a way that I need to understand it, because I got clients I want to talk to about it or something. And really get those and put them together, because I want to take them. I want to put them on my website. I want to put them on this. I want to, here's a product. Boom, this is what they say about themselves. Let's talk about it, kind of thing. Because I think our discussion is, it's long overdue. We need to start talking about software services. We need to talk about platforms. We need to talk about in a very professional, good pro, con, high, low way that we've been talking about. And I think HITECH's a great start off, because our head's going to be full of stuff when we get back going, hey, did you see that one? Yeah, what do you think about that? And let's start it there. Let's pick them out of a hat and say that's where we want to go with it, kind of thing. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Let's either do it intelligently or completely the opposite. It's got to be one or the other.
Oh, no.
Nothing in between.
Nothing in between. Full tilt.
I think we can clear one of those bars.
One of those is going to be a success.
One of those is a given. The other is luck.
Oh yeah. But no, and looking forward to seeing you guys and a few others. I mean, people. Yeah, to your point, there's people you see every year.
Yep.
And Rock is fun, because you have some good brains in those rooms, and they ask some hard questions. It's not like
they do.
They'll ask you a question. You're like, damn, I didn't think of that one. And then this comes from a guy that loves to ask questions. I mean, there's some people in there. You're like, that's off to you, man. That's brilliant. That's great insight. So
yeah, and so shameless plug. You guys haven't done enough. And this isn't for me. This is for anyone who wants to have a good time. Tuesday night, Flip2 is hosting a party with partners of Navis, Lanyon, and Social Tables. Everyone is welcome. So that's unlike most parties. It's one of the reasons ours are more fun. It's really cool. If you're in the industry and you're in my database, you're getting an invite. But I do recommend it's Tuesday night, so that way the Rock people can go to it. That's actually why I've always done Tuesday night, even back in the easy old days. But you'll also find some of the more interesting people, like a lot of the Americas board will be there. Why? Because they weren't the Americas board when I first became friends with them.
Yep.
Right, exactly. But some great conversations will happen, and there'll be some good people watching, and you'll get to. I felt old at last year's party, because there are a lot more young people in this industry now than there have been in a long time, and that's exciting. And then the biggest thing I'll say to everyone too is make sure you do go to every booth, because you may be surprised with what you learn. Don't go with just a buying focus. Go with find out why this person cares about this mentality. Because it may open your eyes to a part of the business that you're not currently thinking of.
Yep. Right. And that get a very good point. And you're not always going to find it in the biggest, glitziest booth either. Right. A lot of times those guys are on the mature scale side of where their product is and so forth. And they're not looking at innovation. They're looking at trying to hang on their market share.
That's right.
And yet, you go to the other booths, like I was talking about with the table and the paper draped name tag, and those are the ones that are going to be taking the business from them. So yeah, very true, Fred. Hey, are you going to do a Facebook Live on the party for a while or anything? Because
but bring your stuff.
Yeah, I'll bring my gear with me, so we can. Yeah,
there'll be fun stuff there. We added Navis this year, primarily because I really believe in their product. I don't know if you guys have had. I know, Lauren, you're familiar with it.
I'm very familiar with them. Yeah.
Okay.
They're a great product.
I really believe in their product and their approach. So we invited them this year. We're going into a very deep partnership with them because they do it right.
Right. Okay. So just real quick, we have one next week. What about getting somebody from Navis and let's do a separate blab and let's test run this thing and let's talk about Navis as a product.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
We all, I mean, there's always, we're all positive about the product, but there's also limitations to the product, and
Yeah.
why not have them?
yeah, for sure.
Well, and they're actually in a neat transition right now because they have a pretty old UI, and they're transitioning more to the more modern frameworks and everything. So yeah, there's a couple people there. So I'll reach out to them and see if they're interested in doing that. And I'll send them a video of what this looks like without me in it. So they'll definitely want to do it. I won't send them one with me in it because they'll be like,
but I think it'd be fun because it's a platform of familiarity for all of us.
yep.
And we all have positives about it. And there's, like I said, there's limitations as to where and how it gets used and so forth. So it'd be an interesting POV for our friends who are trying to do the product thing. Plus, doing it before High Tech gives us a reference point while we're at High Tech to say, hey, this is something you might want to jump in on. Because I really am going to openly solicit products while I'm there saying, please join us.
I'm glad after that pause you said products. Just really glad you said products. I was getting concerned there for a second.
Yes. But anyway.
There are so many jokes I want to make, and I'm so not going to do it.
Hey, we started the show like that. And we didn't go there with Ed. So you can't. That whole solo satisfaction thing we did not.
Oh, man. You just went there.
Oh, gosh. All right.
Exciting.
Well, hey, look at the time, everybody.
Yes, and with that,
we're at noon. As always, we could go on. As always, there's something to talk about.
Play us out, Lauren.
Yeah, okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, people of all ages, thank you so much for taking the time to either watch us live or watch us recorded, watch us on Facebook Live or what have you. Oh, did you? Right now, we're averaging between both shows 500 to 600 viewers.
Great,
which is not bad.
Amazing.
Yeah, we've had a low of 280 something, and then we've had a high of 900.
Wow.
But between all of them, it depends. I think the one that you weren't on, Tim, is the one that was hot. No,
surprises me not.
This will be a high one, and we'll blame Robert for the fact that Robert, you're bringing down ratings.
I would like to point out. You know how I was a musician at one point in my life?
Yes.
That's the reason why, right there.
There you go.
Whenever my band played a show, the attendance plummeted.
Of the city.
Of the city.
Oh,
yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
You still owe us a jingle, by the way. You're going to give us a theme song, remember? You're going to come in as Wayne's World. Wayne's World.
Yes, I'm working on that. Even
of course you are, on all your free time that you have.
Exactly.
Well, listen, I think the tagline of this show should be 3 smart guys. We will never discuss. In our minds, we're all part of the 3.
That's right. 4 and 5. Whatever. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
You know what? That might just be it. We might just have to do that.
The problem is sometimes just because of travel, only 3 of us can show up.
So
we might not always.
So that given
advertising
week,
there.
That given week, we're true to form.
Call it 2.5.
All right. As always, thank you, Mr. Edward. If anybody wants to find you or know what it is that you do, where is it that they go?
Orange County. I mean, you can go to flip.to and learn all about the things we care about. And also you can check out Social Tables too. I'm very involved in that company. That's another side of the industry that I'm growing very fond of and a lot of technology in.
Nice. And Mr. Tim?
The easiest place is timpeter.com for all things associated with e-commerce and digital strategy consulting and everything around the industry there.
Excellent. And for me, it's hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com, where also you can watch any of our archived Blabcasts. I have a tab specifically for all of the. We're now on. This is episode 41, so we're reaching the magic year milestone here in August. So
you almost have 2 solid days of binge watching.
I know, right? It could be like
you're 2 months away from taking someone's weekend.
That's it. I can see that happening.
Hospitality, digital marketing, and chill.
It's popcorn, man. All right, with that, thank you again, gentlemen, for as always, the conversation and the topics, and then for everyone that has watched our recordings and live sessions. And we will see you at 10:30 Central Time next Friday as well for Hospitality Digital Marketing. Thanks.
Looking forward to it.